What is up, guys? Coletown here, otherwise known as the Dude Lord Kappa. Today we're going to be showing you 5 new decks that I created or modified from past metas or just thought up in a little bit ago, and I think they'll be really good. They use a lot of new cards, new strategies, and before that I'm going to be going over the balance update, the one that we can see in the news here. And I'm going to be less about the changes themselves, talking less about the changes themselves, and I'm going to be more talking about what I think will be good as a result of these changes, and how these changes will affect the cards that they're being applied to, of course. So, first off, Dark Prince, shield hit points minus 25%. That's a pretty big nerf. A fourth of the shield is now gone. This is really big because Log and a Mega Minion I swing, I believe, will both now knock his shield off in one hit. And I mean, that just means if you log down the Giant or the Golem push, if that's what he is in. This is also really big in 3 Musk, for example. So imagine them putting a Dark Prince in front of the 2 Muscalane. Now if you log it and then fireball it, everything's dead. Basically, because I mean, you're going to log it once the Dark Prince is crossing the bridge. Tower will take care of it. Fireball will kill the Musketeers after the log hits them. That's just an example. Same with Poison. So now this will actually kill everything instead of the Dark Prince living with a tiny bit of health and having to take a shot from anything else. So Log knocking off his shield is actually really big, and I think he'll be significantly less used. So next up, he'll still be good, of course. So it'll be interesting to see what he sticks around in and what he is no longer used in. So Spirit Goblins, hit speed up by 0.1 seconds. Actually a really big deal. Think about every time you're spamming the Spirit Goblins with 3 together. That's 1.1 less second on all of them, and they have a fast hit speed. So that's a pretty big deal. That's also going to impact every single Spirit Goblin coming out of a Goblin Hut. So I do think they'll be used much less. I don't think the best decks will all have Spirit Goblins in them anymore. And Bats kind of go out the window with them too, because they all become less effective and they're only good together. So I do think that it'll be a pretty good nerf. I wish they would have given Goblin Hut its own nerf, but maybe that is enough. Who knows? Next up, Barbarian Barrel. I don't expect it to be used too much. 0.5, it's kind of whatever. Maybe it'll be a little bit better, but nah. Knight, hit points up 3%. With as much hit points as it have, that is a decent nerf. I mean, a decent buff, rather, for Knight. But I don't think it'll be used a ton more than Ice Golem is already. Ice Golem's still very good. So maybe he'll be a little bit better. Dark Goblin is really exciting, because I think Dark Goblin paired with Princess in a lot of decks, and even as on its own, is going to be really good. That's because Dark Goblin, 3% on a card that shoots every 0.6 seconds, I believe, is really huge. So it's like, because he almost has a 0.5 hit speed, it's almost double the DPS increase. So it's more like a 5 point something increase on his damage, just because he shoots so fast, and now he 2-shots minions. That's a really big interaction change. He's going to be so much better and offer so much more pressure, and he was already decent, and I think this will push him over the edge. He's a pretty good card against Lightning if you use his range to your advantage. Because, for example, Musketeer is weak to Lightning because she's 4 elixir. That's a 2 elixir trade, but if they're going to Lightning just a Dark Goblin, that's 3 elixir going down, so that's a pretty big deal. And I think Lightning will be pretty big. So Dark Goblin, I'm looking to be a big player in this new meta. So Ice Spirit, area damage down minus 4%. I don't know if that'll affect. It's weird they chose to nerf the damage of the Ice Spirit. I'm interested to see if that affects any of the interactions, like Ice Spirit zap on a minion horde. I don't think it would affect that one, but I wonder how many interactions it affects. That could be a big deal. I don't quite know. But the freeze duration down 33%. That's huge. 1.5 to 1 second on a card that's cycling constantly. We're gonna read about the Tornado nerf. Every deck that has Ice Spirit Tornado, I think, is just gonna be unusable, honestly, because Tornado also received a pretty large nerf. We'll get to that, but Ice Spirit duration, really big on a one elixir card. I think it'll be significantly weaker, especially in Tornado decks. I think it could still have utility in cycling decks, but We'll have to see. I think those decks could also be made weaker by this, because I mean, a lot of these decks, like Hog Cycle, for example, rely on that Ice Spirit holding, and Expo rely on that Ice Spirit holding things down for a pretty long time, so you can either retarget them, distract them with something else, or kill them. So the decks that use Ice Spirit are pretty reliant on it, so we'll just have to see. Skeleton Barrel, skeleton count up 6 to 7. As we saw, the 8 to 6 actually was a huge nerf, because now the tower could take care of them much quicker, because not only are the skeletons adding DPS, they're adding an extra body. So 6 to 7, maybe one of the decks I made will have Skeleton Barrel. I don't know if it'll be good. It's one of the more experimental decks, but I do think Skeleton Barrel could possibly be used. So we'll just have to see. Lightning, back to its old radius, 3 to 3.5, the same as Poison. That's a really large area. It's really good with Hog, and it's really good with Giant and every beatdown deck, but also Hog. The reason it's really good with Hog is because there's basically no defensive building placement that outranges it that isn't at the river. So it just makes it really awkward to defend Hogs with buildings. And guess what? Because of the Tornado nerf, Hog is going to be a lot more used. So Hog Lightning is going to be a big player in the new meta, in my opinion. So we'll go ahead and start talking. Lightning is going to be awesome, in my opinion. Very good. And Hunter is going to be trash against Lightning because it kills it. And Magic Archer dies to Lightning as well. So those are 2 new cards. Especially Hunter was finding its niche. And these type of like Ice Spirit, Guards, decks that really relied on the Hunter. The Graveyard deck I showed off not too long ago on this channel is going to be bad now. Especially because it also had Mega Minion in it. It's not going to be good because that deck relies on protecting the Hunter. Because the Hunter was spell resistant to the spells that are good, besides Rocket, but that's kind of awkward to have to use a Rocket. But now you can hit other things as well. You hit the tower, you get free damage every time. So Hunter is going to be in a rough spot, especially decks that had like Hunter and Mega Minion. Goblin Hut also weaker in my opinion because it's hard to space things out with the Goblin Hut if you attack into it with like a Golem, for example. So those are both weaker. Magic Archer hits moving targets better. That's nice. But like I said, Tornado, I think... also Tornado now will one-shot skeletons with 1 tick. So you can no longer activate King Tower with Tornado. So that's a pretty big nerf. It will kill them 1 hit, so you can use it like a log to clear them off the tower. But the duration is only 2 seconds. So it's literally going to be 1 more elixir to clear off like a log. And you potentially... I don't know how exactly the damage... how fast the damage comes through, because I don't know if they would be able to get a hit off before they're pulled or if it immediately kills them. Of course, it doesn't take 2 ticks of the Tornado now, so I mean, it will kill them, but you can't activate King Tower. It's a pretty big nerf. I don't know if you can pull a Golem to the tower anymore. You definitely can't pull a Balloon anymore. Maybe even with Ice Spirit, since they got nerfed too, you can't like Ice Spirit NATO a Balloon that's placed far side, so Tornado is just way worse. Also, Xenogenesis, if you play it really well, Botchum did a video on CWA's channel. Xenogenesis actually just barely was able to finish off a Lava Hound and a Balloon push by itself. So now, if you do that, I think the Balloon gets through for sure, even with Ice Spirit. So yeah, Tornado and Ice Spirit much weaker, which maybe is warranted. They've been good for really long. All right, so moving on. Spells can now be played on the river. That's awesome, because that's a bug that's really annoying when people play Minion Horde in the middle and whatnot. And then the only other one that is important, Hunter, that's a good buff to him, but I didn't think he'll be significantly weaker. And that's about it for the balance changes. So now we're going to go on to the decks I made. So first off, Lava Hound. Tornado hard nerfed. Ice Spirit nerfed, and those are usually used in conjunction. I think Lava Hound, I'm not absolutely sure if Lightning Arrows will be the new thing. We'll have to see, but I do think Lightning is very strong, so I think it's a strong possibility this deck will be good. Flying Machine, of course, in here because Fireball will be used much less often in this balance, I believe. So Flying Machine can get a lot of value, and you can always like space these out so they don't get hit by lightning. You have to do that. And I do think arrows can get a lot of utility because Dark Goblin dies to arrows. I think he'll be seeing a lot. Princess dies to arrows, Goblin Barrels, all that type of thing. So I think it's more effective because what I think this deck could have problems with if you're using the Fireball Zap variation is I think the baits with like the Dark Goblins could get a lot of value because I mean if you have to Fireball a Dark Goblin, you can't zap him and then maybe they have Goblin Barrel. So yeah, I think this could be the new variation. Not 100% sure, but I think it could be really good. All right, next up, I'm really excited about this deck. I think Carter I saw using a variation of it, but Lightning Hog, like I said, for the reasons I've already stated, Lightning Hog very good. This is sort of a ripoff from the old like Rocket P.E.K.K.A. mini P.E.K.K.A. version. P.E.K.K.A. Lightning Hog could also be good. Not 100% sure if this variation will be better with or without P.E.K.K.A. I like the mini P.E.K.K.A. because it's a cheaper cycle and you still have all the tools to deal with the tanks. You can pressure opposite lane and then use mini P.E.K.K.A. and like a Dark Goblin or a Princess from range to clear stuff out. But I really like the idea of having Dark Goblin and Princess, because you have a lot of pressure. You can use Dark Goblin on the side of like tanks and Princess on the other side, and they just get a lot of value. Dark Goblin also a graveyard counter. I do think graveyard will be better now because less poison will be used. Of course, you'll still see poison, but less of it. Although I don't know for graveyard, because I guess you could use Hut, but I think that'll be worse. And I also think like you can't use the Hunter graveyard, so that's in a weird spot. I don't have a graveyard deck here, but I'm sure one will arise, yeah. So yeah, this hog deck looks really nice to me. I'm really proud of that. And then of course this is the only like previous deck that I think will be really good that's worth noting. This deck is, because of lightning blocks and because of pump baits, this deck destroys lightning. Like, it's so good against lightning, and it's pretty skillful in how you have to do it. But Battle Rams on the Musketeers fully counters it. Battle Ram will eat every shot, besides one, I think. Wait. Yeah, I guess because it hits the ram into the barb, so never mind. It depends. Sometimes they catch a little bit of the side or whatever. But generally you can defend it. Anyway, so even like, going back to this deck, even if they have arrows, they can kill Minion Horde, yes, but the lightning is just too much oftentimes. I mean, this deck countered the Fireball variation anyway. I will say the Flying Machine could maybe get value, but, because you can arrow the Minion Horde, so maybe you'd have a better chance with this lightning variation than with the old Fireball Zap Lava Loon, but who knows. But yeah, this deck's still going to be just so good. I will say it's nice that lightning one-shots pump now. That wasn't how it used to do it, but it still serves as a bait. So, next going on. Okay, so this deck is kind of weird, but I think it could be good. I don't like the idea of the Golem Rocket deck anymore. Rocket deck, because Dark Prince got a nerf. And I don't think you can just take out Dark Prince and put something else in, because the NATO also got a nerfed, and if you take out Dark Prince, you don't have that splash. And I think just the overall nerfs to both NATO and Dark Prince will make that deck not quite as good. It could still be like a winnable deck, but I just think something more like this would be better. This is kind of weird. This is like a really old throwback type deck almost. Kind of close to the like graveyard one I used to use. But I think Tombstone could be good in this meta because it's pretty lightning resistant. So one thing I'm going to be talking about with the last deck is I think Tesla is going to be so bad in everything but Expo. I don't think Tesla control decks are going to be that good, and that's why I struggled to think of how you can make a traditional log bait deck work. So like your Princess, I mean, you could maybe, so I'm using Dark Goblins in these other sort of decks because I don't think it'll be good in log bait, oddly enough. Because it's like with log bait, it's like you can't really use Tornado Ice Spirit anymore, right? But you also can't use Tesla, in my opinion, unless you just have a ridiculously fast cycle, but I don't really think that'll work. So like Cannon is decent, I guess, but that's only good in Hog Cycle, really. But like Tesla is left with like 100 HP when you're lightning it, and against like a tank deck, that's nothing. It'll just die to duration. So it basically dies to it, unlike Inferno Tower, but Inferno Tower's not good anymore. It received too many nerfs. Because the Wild Time Lightning does pretty well against it. I'm iffy on the fact of having 3 spells. You could have some awkward cycles because of that. But I kind of like Archers in more decks now because they're if you're using Lightning a lot, they're more spell resistant. And if they're using Fireball or Poison, you can always space these 2 out to bait it. So I think this could work. Potentially 3 spells isn't the way to go, but I do think there's going to be a lot of bait in like Dark Goblin, potentially even arrows. Like I said, with Lava Hound could get a lot of value in this meta that I think is coming up. So yeah, this is a deck I made, and then finally we'll go to this one. So because of the Skeleton Barrel and because of the Dark Goblin buffs, I think a deck like this could work. It's kind of similar to the old like MK bait decks that were good. But of course with Prince, I think Prince could be good in this type of deck. It serves as kind of a bait, and then I am using Spirit Goblins from Goblin Gang, but it's more so for the rush capabilities. And so I will say I also like this type of deck more than I would previously. It's even better because it uses Dark Goblin instead of like a Princess, because Princess isn't really like, it's more of like a control defensive card. It's not good with Miner. It's better with like Spell Bait, Log Bait or whatever. So I think Miner Dark Goblin is a really threatening combo. And the Skeleton Barrel will bait stuff out, and then these cards are bait cards as well. And I do like Zap in this deck. I was going to say also, I think Log will be used just a ton in this new meta. So I think cards like this could get some value in this deck particularly. So I like the idea of this deck. I'll be testing it out. And these are all pretty experimental, but these are just my thoughts and my combinations. I don't think any of these decks have too many glaring weaknesses. Of course, like this one could be tough against like Lava Hound. Potentially, if they have arrows, though, you get some value out of either of these, and then they can't defend the other side. So you can pressure in this deck, even though you're kind of weak on air defense. But I like this deck quite a bit, so I'll be trying it out. And these are just all decks that I made on my own. I like doing deck building on these new patches. And I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you tomorrow or the day after with Clan War stuff. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.